The war over who owns and controls our information has been raging for decades. And that data can be used for us and against us, and we have very little ability to control data being used against us. We need to give more power to citizens to control their data. And if you don't have a good reason, or if you don't have a warrant, guess what? You don't get access. I'm all for catching the bad guys. We have intelligence operations that protect our country every day, but I don't want to have uncontrolled, unfettered collection.
You're listening to the Ransomware Rewind, where we break down the latest cyber threats, data breaches, and security solutions that matter to you and your business. Stay secure. Stay informed. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Ransomware Rewind podcast. Today we have Kevin O'Neill, CSIP. He's the founder and CEO of CYVA Research Corporation, where he drives innovation in secure AI for cyber defense. He has held senior security leadership roles and advised Fortune 500 companies and federal agencies on risk, resilience, and emerging technology. Kevin's portfolio includes the Augmented Cyber Warrior and Trust Community Operator Kit, recognized on the CDAO Tradewinds Solutions Marketplace. His career blends hands-on technical experience with executive strategy, making him a trusted voice on AI safety, deepfakes, and digital trust. Kevin O'Neill, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mike.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
All right, mountains or beach? Real quick.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Joe?
What do you prefer, the mountains or the beach?
The beach.
The beach. Yeah, same here.
I surfed for many years in Scripps, La Jolla, Blacks.
That's a tough life right
This
here.
one might be easy for you then. Are you tacos or pizza?
Well, Tulsi Gabbard only trusts people who surf. You know that? I'm just joking
I didn't
with
know
you
that.
guys.
I wouldn't put it past her.
God, that's a hard toss-up, tacos or pizza. Man, I don't know. I love Mexican food, okay? I do. But I also love Felipe's Pizza,
Yes.
all right?
Lippy's, that's
Old
good.
Town.
I like
Excuse me, not Old Town. What am I saying? Little Italy.
Little Italy.
Yeah, and they got the little shop there.
Yes, family.
We used to go there when we lived in Little Italy and get the carafes of wine.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they have one in Mesa too. That way you can get parking.
right. There'd always be a line for Felipe's Pizza on a Friday night.
Yeah, there is.
So, Mike, you had a question, right?
Yeah, I was thinking on the privacy front, like, I don't know if recorded or not, but like everything on here is not, I don't own it and I don't control it. So let's say some bad guy takes my phone.
Right.
Pretty much that bad guy's name is Zuckerberg. They can have full access to everything. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on privacy laws like California Consumer Privacy Act. Do you think that's means anything, or is this just fluff?
Well, guys, let me give you a little history here. I was at
Let's hear it.
KPMG in the 90s, and they didn't know anything about the EU Data Protection Directive. Okay? My partners. I was working on PKI at Microsoft and some other companies. Kevin, just keep on with the security stuff. We're not interested in privacy stuff. And so
Okay.
I'm simply saying the war over who owns and controls our information has been raging for decades. And one of those battlefields is law and regulation. And so I'm simply saying that there are countries that are well ahead of us in essentially having good legal regulatory frameworks to assert our data rights, namely access, control, transparency, the right to change, and the right to be forgotten. Okay? We have been a battlefield. California, the United States government, etc., Congress fighting over, and I will say today that we have a sectorial system, like we protect video rental records. Okay. Because members of Congress didn't want anybody to know that they're watching porn or something like that. All right. So we have a sectorial system here in the United States compared to an omnibus program in Europe and other countries. So I hope that answers your question, but I want to go, what is the definition of privacy? What is it? And I'm making an argument that the right of informational self-determination is the core aspect of privacy in the digital economy, the world that we live in, the right to control our data. Does that help understand what privacy is?
Yeah, it does.
Where does the public cloud fit in there? Because there's so much data out there that's in this public cloud. How do we have self-determination when something like that already exists?
Well, right now, purposely, we don't have much control over what's in the cloud. If you look at the rise of databases, I mean, talking Oracle Corporation in particular, they are probably the largest repository of personal information on the planet. And I don't want to pick on Larry Ellison. I'm just simply saying that is a well-established industry, namely enterprise databases, and they have a ton of our information included in those databases. And that can be good or bad. You know, the IRS, different agencies, they need to send out the social security checks, whatever like that. The data is in those records in order to promote a process, all right? And I'm simply saying, as a person who built databases for the Air Force to protect and control highly sensitive secret information, namely a war plan, okay? Top secret classified data. And I'm simply saying that the industry has continued to evolve, but we, in the issues of having a human-centric form of identity storage, have been purposely ignored. I'm simply saying these are corporate centric systems. They are government centric systems. They're not Joe and Mike centric. Okay.
Oh,
They're not.
not at all.
All right. So people look at the skeptics, look at Kevin, there's so much data out there that's not under control. How are we ever going to get control? And I'm simply saying, Ralph Nader looked at the automobile back in the 1960s. How are we going to possibly address this with millions of cars? So I'm simply saying it's going to take time. But if you can evolve technology to give people to control, starting with their phones, maybe we can grow the use of this technology from cyber research. So we have our little protest is that, why aren't you supporting a personal information agent technology in your government database? You know, why can't I have an audit capability? Why can't I have a lock or unlock capability? So I'm simply saying the war is being fought on multiple levels, but the bottom line is that big tech, big government, and I don't want to be too over the top hostile towards our government, but the fact is we all went through COVID.
Yeah.
And we saw the monkey business that went on to censor Americans. John Malone, as an example, deplatformed because he was speaking out as an expert in mRNA. He owns a patent, okay? And so I'm simply saying that data can be used for us and against us, and we have very little ability to control data being used against us. All right.
You think it's too late to bring the data back to us and to own our own data?
Well, it's simply
Is there
Mike, it's simply a choice. All right. You
Mm,
want to be a tyrant like the CCP, like Kim Jong-un of North Korea. You criticize the leader of that country, you get a bullet to the head. All right.
yeah.
I do not want America to be the next CCCP in terms of its pervasive surveillance capabilities, but the fact is we are.
We are. And to your point, like I've seen Britain now, if you put a post that's against the British government, they're now enforcing those laws where you can't say things that they deem as hate speech.
Right. Even if you're not against the government and you're just against immigration.
Right. And so,
Yeah, that's to your point. It's just getting bigger and bigger because I always thought Britain was free speech, but now they have all that data and they're using it against their citizens.
all right. So credit scoring has been around for a while, right? Maybe you have a surveillance infrastructure in China. If you're not a well-behaved communist, you're going to get a lower score. You're going to have problems getting a job, food, money, whatever. They're going to control you. So digital currencies, also the war over why should we allow our government to have the central bank digital currency, which is really a surveillance tool. And it also
Mm-hmm.
it's a choke point. Namely, you remember the truck drivers in Canada basically got their
Yes.
credit card shut down. It's just like,
Yeah, I remember that.
right.
Wasn't that long ago?
Yeah, so I'm just simply saying they're as technocrats, evil technocrats, they can do a lot of coercion of freedoms or cut off liberties of individuals using technology. This is a technology to arm both citizens and warriors so we can control our information wherever it exists. And I don't know if you want to spend much time, but I spent a lot of time. I was invited 3 times to go back to USOCOM and participate in different events. And essentially, they like my white papers. At least there are soldiers, excuse me, special operators who like the ability to control data on phones, especially in human intelligence operations. You don't want the bad guys to know who your informants are. Okay. You
No.
don't want them to grab the phone and say, oh, you just got a message here from some guy in special forces here. Boom. They shoot you, kill
Mm-hmm.
you instantly. So I want to be able to delete that message instantly at any time or control the message after it's left my phone. I hope I don't ramble, guys, here, but I am a
No, this
human
is interesting to
digital liberty
me.
activist. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Like wherever the data lives, they would have access to it, and who controls that data?
You do.
That's that's the problem. Is I don't.
Well,
I
I'm just
want to.
simply saying, currently in our ecosystem, we have very little, if any, control.
Yes.
We don't. All right, we don't. We can't. All right. So
And then
go ahead.
I had to ask about Palantir. Like, what are your thoughts on Palantir? Do you think that they have access to way too much data? Because I'm sure they have all our data, but I never agreed to that.
Well, I've listened to a number of interviews of Peter Thiel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Musk, and of course, Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google. And it's fascinating to me to listen to these. I mean, they're stellar businessmen, billionaires, are very successful, but they're being asked hard questions about artificial intelligence, super intelligence, AGI, etc. And I look at Palantir and I look at the contracts that they've got with the government, and yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned
Me
about the
too.
consolidation of what was stovepipe data, which was purposely stovepipe to prevent people, somebody saying, well, get Kevin's IRS records, let's get Social Security records, let's get what are all these records so we have a complete picture of him. So anybody that's going for a complete picture, I'm going, where are the safeguards? What's to
What
prevent them? Yeah, what's to
their argument is,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's like there's a human involved. Like, oh, Kevin, we have all your information. We're going to create this profile about you to see if you're a good guy or a bad guy, kind of like what China's doing.
Right.
But don't worry, Kevin. We got a human that'll determine if that data is true or not. That's pretty much their argument, which is I find rather concerning.
Yes, I do. We look at arbitrary decisions by judges. Okay, we got a mass of judges that are radical judges. They're protecting criminals rather than protecting innocent, people that have been victimized. Okay, we observe this
Mm-hmm.
fact, and I would say that our founders had an innate distrust of government. And that's why we have a Bill of Rights. They wrote it out and they said, these are the Bill of Rights. You got a First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third, Fourth, etc. And we wrote them out and said, you cannot bust into my home and do a search and seizure without a warrant. And I'm simply saying a lot of that has been blown away, such as the example of spying on the President Trump and his team through the FISA court. And you had operators such as the FBI who lied to a judge. So the system we know has flaws, serious flaws.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm with you on the fact that we have very little, if any, control. We have individuals in powerful positions who independently make up decisions here about the use of our data. And I'm arguing that we need to change that model. We need to give more power to citizens to control their data. And if you don't have a good reason or if you don't have a warrant, guess what? You don't get access. So I argue for what's the creation of a trusted information utility. so that maybe in the future my personal information would be essentially controlled by this personal information agent, and I might have dual managers, naming myself guarding the interests of my elderly mother who has dementia, and I have a doctor, etc. But if I have some government agency that wants to have access to my mom's email or whatever like that, I'm going, you got to talk to the son here. You got to talk to me about that and get my permission. But that's a good question. It gets into policy over who has access to what and for what reason, right? For why?
There are different classifications of data because if you are doing like OSINT work,
Right.
where you're just scraping public data, um, when does that data become too much data? Because you can go online and find a lot of data on somebody just from looking through what they've made public,
Right.
and what is considered like actually private data, and where's the line between those two?
Well, I'm all for catching the bad guys. Guys, I'm simply saying that we have intelligence operations that protect our country every day. They use OSINT, etc., to research on individuals that they believe are terrorists or planning terrorist acts. So I believe strongly in the ability to collect information about individuals, but I don't want to have uncontrolled, unfettered collection. So the Snowden incident, all right, is it controversial? Tulsi Gabbard got beat up badly about that issue. And I'm simply saying that there are good ways and bad ways to be a whistleblower. I'm a whistleblower, all right. And I'm simply saying I had to deal with attorneys who are adamantly going to go after me for exposing some corruption within a large defense contractor. But the fact is that OSINT is a very powerful tool. But I want to talk about when is data collection good? When is data collection evil? How can I possibly mitigate or stop an evil use of data collection? I wrote a paper probably 15 years ago called The Data Slave Trade. It did not go over well. Mamie, I was basically asserting through an analogy that slavery back in the transatlantic slave trade, which went on for, God, what, 350 years, we had Europeans sailing ships down to Africa, forcefully putting black people, chaining them, branding them, declaring them property, putting them on a ship, and sailing them to the Americas where they worked for the rest of their lives as slaves. I'm simply saying we are being collected, we are being branded, we are being declared property because we all have a human digital existence and they're making a ton of money off of us unfettered. I want to put an end, I would like to simply say this. I want to see more controls, more regulations, more government, but I want technology given to citizens so they can better control their information. It's Second Amendment for cyberspace, guys.
No, there we go.
Well,
That sums it right up there.
Well, the Second Amendment, also the Fourth Amendment, right?
Yeah.
well, guys, I'm simply saying the Second Amendment was to protect the First Amendment, free speech.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you arm a citizen and you give them the ability to protect themselves and also defend their rights. Okay. And I'm simply saying in cyberspace, I want to build the ability so people have the ability to control and defend and control its own, protect and control their data wherever it exists. Okay. I know there's going to be a policy war about that. But right now, I don't trust any of the big tech companies because I don't see any controls. And California was trying to have these better privacy laws and they got lobbied
Yeah.
out of existence, right? All right. So I'm jaded about legislation and government because too many of our politicians are owned by big tech corp or pharmacy, pharmaceutical, whatever. It's just the same old game. All right.
Yeah, those laws. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over. Like those laws don't have any teeth. Like I've never heard of anyone being convicted or having to pay a fine for breaking California consumer Privacy Act, CCPA. Like I've never heard, they don't enforce those laws. Because think about it, like Facebook would be out of business. It breaks their whole model.
Well, Mike, you're touching on the reality of our, hold on, a very real reality that laws get passed, but they're purposely weakened. They're purposely unenforced. They're nothing but show. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, they can use it, to make an example of people. And I have seen some fines for after someone has a breach and they don't make an effort to notify people, things like that. But I wanted to go back to what you were talking about in the whistleblowing. You mentioned that you're a whistleblower. What whistle are you blowing? And
Jeez. Okay.
What whistle are you blowing?
And can you blow the whistle here on
your wife wants to know that.
on the Ransomware Rewind podcast? Can you blow the whistle on what's going on out there?
Well, I'm simply saying I've been around long enough to have been on large billion-dollar programs, and I had a close. I was in the database support group, IT organization, and I will not name the company right now. But this guy and I went out, two single guys to have some fun at a local, restaurant, whatever, and he's drunk out of his mind. He said, "Kevin, we're lying to the Army." Okay. And I'm in the support group providing the data for all of the finance and budgeting, whatever like that. And he's the head guy managing the finances for the corporation. And I said, "You got 1 week to pack up your proof, and we're going to take it into the office." Most big programs will have an Army, Navy, or whatever on site. Okay, some sort of governance process in place. That was a long time ago. And fast forward to the 90s, I'm on an Air Force program, which is behind schedule, desperately behind schedule. I step in. I start to get it back on schedule with my team, and I start building things that were not on the schedule, namely a database meta dictionary in order to manage database changes, etc., which was not a part of the original plan. So I'm simply saying I'm pointing out a little bit of incompetency, but at the same time, I'm simply saying there is no way we're going to make this schedule. And they stopped inviting me to customer meetings with the colonel and others. But eventually, I took my documentation, I went to the colonel independently of my management, and I said, "Here's the evidence." And he tells me, "Kevin, we know they're lying to us."
Really?
Yeah. And I said, "Well, why haven't you informed the IG or somebody?" And then silence.
Wow.
But the fact is that goes on. They don't call them Beltway bandits for nothing. But the fact is, there's a lot of audit and control that's supposed to be catching this stuff. And we have the IG's office and other agencies. 1/3 of the government is watching the other 2/3. All right. That's the reality. But when you get stuck in these points, I said, "You know what, guys? I've been a long-standing believer in God. I do not lie to the government. Don't ask me to lie to the government. I'm not going to do that." All right. All right. Any other questions that I'm not going to name the companies? All right.
You put yourself in a precarious position there.
Well, I was really disappointed when my lawyer abandoned me, and I thought he got paid off, but that's a whole other can of worms. But back to privacy, guys.
Yeah.
I want to just give you a chance to explain what your company does.
I was just going to go there. Yeah.
And what problem you're fixing.
Right.
What you're doing.
Well, fundamentally, while I'm on that Air Force program, I'm a frustrated engineer because we got the latest technology from database vendors, AT&T, crypto, whatever. And I said, "Why can't I control this bag of sensitive information after it's been sent and decrypted?" Normally, you encrypt some data, you send it across the network, it shows up on the person's device, whatever. And once they decrypt it, do you have any control over that? Mike, Joe? No. You got no
No.
control over decrypted information. They do whatever they want with it. So I said, I'm going to create a new class of data objects. I'm going to reimagine what data should be. I'm going to re-engineer it. And I realized back then that I needed hardware in addition to the software. So I created an object model for a self-determining digital persona. The other name I use is a personal information agent, but it's a combination of hardware and software. And what I created was an owner-operator controlled, intelligent, I'm using safe white box AI versus black box unsafe AI. Self-protecting, self-governing, self-monetizing. And this is an identity agent that's always under my control wherever it exists. So that is essentially the invention. It is an ability to control my data wherever it exists. And you can have multiple owners, like me protecting my mom, an adult with a child, or it might be a custodian or somebody else who has legal responsibility to protect the use of your data. And I want,
A lot of our
go ahead.
listeners are businesses. How would this apply to business?
Well, number one, I would argue that a good merchant will want to have a trusted relationship with a consumer. And one of the key aspects of trustworthiness is, Mr. Merchant, are you going to misutilize the personal information that you now have in order to expedite a transaction? Like I go online here, I shop for something, whatever, they get all my credit card information, whatever, like that. And I'm simply saying, if you want to, merchant, if you want to have a trusted relationship with a consumer, why don't you incorporate a personal information agent into your quote sales and your infrastructure, so you can now be a trusted merchant because the consumer literally is in control of your data wherever it exists. And why don't you pay them directly instead of going through a big tech company for this advertising marketing thing? Just go direct to the consumer and pay them for the use of their time, data, and attention to your ad. So we have ad agents that might represent a product, and it says, Kevin, or excuse me, consumer, are you over 35 years old? Are you located in Southern California? Do you have any kids? Whatever like that. And I want to license my data for that particular use, and it's one time. All right. They don't need to mess with my data after the transaction. But a good salesman wants to qualify a client. Said, you can't afford that new Mercedes, can you, son? You're only 18. Right. So you want to be able to, quote, get some information about the kid's ability to pay for the Mercedes because he has a rich uncle and he's getting a birthday present or whatever. I don't want to get off track here, but I'm simply saying I want businesses to be trustworthy. And one of the key aspects is, do they respect my privacy? Do they respect my right to control my data? And I would say that the majority do not have that in place. Does that help?
Privacy statements on, yeah. And privacy statements on the website, but that doesn't mean anything. But like what you're describing is, after the use case, the kid buys the Mercedes, that data is no longer being used. Where right now the kid buys the Mercedes, they're going to sell that to every car company on the planet because that's the real value. The data is worth a lot more than the Mercedes.
So I wrote this paper a long time ago, and I am simply saying that there's an entire industry built on the massive collection and reselling of our personal information. And these data brokers have existed for a long time. And I don't see that industry being properly regulated. And if they want to be trusted data brokers, they should use technology like this in order to have an assurance that their data will not be misutilized. We all have brokers. When I say broker, we all have brokers. I'm simply saying that our information is an asset. And like any asset, it needs to be managed properly. I don't want to have a totalitarian state. We have all of the mechanics of a totalitarian state with all the data collection going on. And at what time is that data collection? Remember the film Enemy of the State?
Mm-hmm.
and all
Yeah.
this NSA capabilities that came out and the satellites and the little devices in his shoe and whatever tracking him, whatever. And I'm simply saying very powerful technology to perform surveillance capabilities. But I'm simply making an argument here. The average American has no privacy. We don't. And I seriously, we need to change that.
Have you had any companies talk to you about putting this into their infrastructure? Because it would give them more credibility.
Well, again, I have been trying to get funding from Silicon Valley for a long time, and I've been consistently rejected. And I simply, I am frustrated with that fact. I also realize that, Kevin, our entire business model is to collect and exploit. And
Exactly.
you get in between me and my doggy bowl, you know. Have you ever teased a pet dog? You shake their little bowl and they growl at you, whatever, like that. And I'm simply saying I've been growled at by big tech because I'm messing with their business model. All right. But I'm also simply saying that I don't believe that all of them fit into the same mold of being these massive, unethical, greedy driven companies. But the fact is that I would ask you two guys, do you think the bottom line motivation to excel at artificial intelligence or super intelligence is that ethically motivated or is that profit motivated?
Motivated right out the gate. The same thing that goes for quantum computing. Like I often think about like people are investing in quantum computing. Well, think about that. I can zip through any SSL cert. I can get access to anything with
Right.
quantum computing. So
Right.
none of this stuff is altruistic. None of it.
Well, I'm with you also, and God, it's at least 5 years ago. I'm at a satellite company here in San Diego, and they were hosting a security meetup that I was running, and I was very fortunate to have that company do that. They're very supportive of the local community and security professionals. But yeah, they were looking at quantum resistant algorithms a long time ago. They had to. All right. And so when you have satellite companies that are supporting our military, you better be secure.
Oh yeah.
Right. You better be secure.
And in the cloud world, a lot of companies are not FedRAMP certified.
Right.
Do you see a problem where I'm kind of changing subject, still security, where defense contractors will lie on a form where they say that they're FedRAMP certified, but they're really not. They're just spinning up VMs in a data center somewhere. Because it seems like that's the holy grail, but I don't know if everyone's actually really. I'm gonna take a step back. When you look at the audits to be FedRAMP certified or to
Right.
actually do business with the DoD, it's tough. And I find it hard that everyone is meeting all those requirements. Would you agree or disagree with
Well,
that?
I am simply making an argument, as you know well, that once you have an industry or business that has to meet federal FedRAMP or other standards, there's always the issue of can I trust this process to vet these people properly? You know, at KPMG, we're auditors, all right?
Yeah.
I'm a manager in the information risk management practice. Yes, there were individuals, companies, I'm not going to name them, that got busted for not abiding by their privacy statements. And so the FTC ordered us to perform audits for the next 5 years. That was part of their punishment. Okay. And so you simply say if you have an entity that is handling controlled unclassified information and or classified information, there are levels of security requirements associated with those abilities to process government information. And I'm simply saying that we need better tools to safeguard the okay, this is a regulatory enforcement capability, flat out. All right. I can attach my policies, my rules to that document. So wherever that document exists, those rules are being enforced by the hardware and the software, the technology. So it is a compliance enforcement capability. So I don't want you guys to simply say, well, I just store phone numbers and pictures and whatever that. You stuff data objects inside of this personal information agent is sort of like a container, and you can attach policy to it, and that policy is written by you, and an auditor can then go back and say, show me the audit log for all the display operations that were performed on that picture. I think it's a great addition to a dating system. And the fact that the girl goes, God, Kevin didn't look at my picture today. Because she has the ability to audit it and say, this guy's not in love with me because he hasn't looked at my picture for the last 5
Yeah, up to the next one, just swipe right.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a serious,
So what can
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I'm just
I was just
in
going
a
to ask
serious
you.
context. If I have a non-disclosure agreement that I executed with a major corporation, I want to say, was that thing executed? You know, who's the last one that signed off on it, etc. You want to look at an audit trail, okay, of a lot of documents. All right.
What can companies do, tomorrow or next week to practically protect their data and their customers' data better?
Well, I am arguing for a fundamental paradigm change on what data is. Okay.
I know. I'm just asking you, for people now before, we get to like where your companies change data. Like what can we do right now? Like,
Oh, geez.
in this imperfect world we're in.
Well, I think my fellow security professionals are doing the best they can given the tools that they have. All right. So you know Matt Stamper? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, Matt.
All right. So you have individuals like him who have been around for a long time protecting data in data centers, whatever. He's got all the credentials, etc., like that. But he is in a world that is constrained by the paradigms of those worlds. And so he's complimented me and my technology and my approach. But the fact is that if you have an industry that refuses to put safety belts on data, what can you do? Because
Yeah, there's not much.
they fear a loss of control, right?
Yeah.
You have agencies that don't want us to be able to lock our data and say, hey, stay out of my information. But I'm at KPMG back in the 90s. We would go to DC. We'd have these sit down meetings with the auditors inside the IRS, and they tell us, hey, Kevin, we had to fire employees on a fairly regular basis because they're looking into tax records that they shouldn't be looking at. Google has the same problem. You got voyeurs going into these large data sets and looking at some actress or whatever, And
Right. Uber had that issue too. Yeah.
right. So I'm simply saying that we live in an ecosystem that was built and designed with primitive, weak, dumb data at its core. And I'm simply saying we need to change the paradigm. We need to get cars built that have safety belts as standard equipment. We need computers built that have standard personal information. I don't care if another inventor comes along and invents something like this. Yes, I would like to be able to say to them, good job. Okay, you're protecting the right of informational self-determining. Go forward and be prosperous because you're doing something good for humanity. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm pretty jaded because I've given presentations to significant corporations. I'm talking, big companies. And they said, Kevin, could you please give a talk to the office of the chief scientist here because you wrote this paper on a user-controlled identity. And I never heard back from them. But I did hear this in the back of the room, all right? A room full of engineers. Damn, he's already got patents. And I just came here. You just came here to invite me to suck my brain, my invention. And
and then take it.
well, I'm just simply saying, okay, what did Microsoft do to Netscape?
Copied it.
They cut off the air supply. All right.
Yeah.
They're okay. Business.
Like when they came out with IE.
Well, I'm simply saying, guys, we live in a capitalist system, and these companies like the Gettys and the robber barons back then, they harmed each other in order to get ahead. So there's lawsuits all day long between big corporations with each other. I mean, Apple, Qualcomm, you name it. They're all stealing each other's employees all day. They're all suing each other in the district court of Dallas, Texas. But the point being is that we live in a very competitive world, which we hope would produce better products that benefit humanity. But I'm simply saying I am a frustrated innovator who's not getting any support right now from the venture capital community. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
What about going direct to companies, not just the mega Silicon Valley companies, but just regular companies that would be interested in this? Because it is a good value prop. You just leapfrog the VCs.
Well, let's take hospitals as an example. Let's drill down.
Yeah.
All right. I have met individuals who are supposed to be in charge of privacy at a major healthcare entity. They are hostile to this invention.
What's unexpected?
No, there are doctors who say, I created that record, I should own it. Right? And I'm simply saying that there are institutions. I mean, who started hospitals? Jesus and the disciples treating ill people. You look at the early stages of the church and helping heal people miraculously or with doctors or whatever. They were free. Okay. It was a service. All right. But slowly but surely, major hospitals got taken over by MBAs, coming out of wherever and say, we're here to make money. All right. And so you have that.
The church asks for, a donation.
Well, I'm simply saying that the almighty dollar is worshipped constantly, and screw privacy. But we're going to continue with our business model here. So I'm simply saying privacy is a much debated issue regarding legislation.
Right.
Because we are the product.
Yeah, we're the product.
Oh, you are. You definitely are. All right.
So as we land the plane, where can people find you? And do you want to say one more thing to the audience?
Well, I'm encouraged, but I keep on demoing. I demo my application. I have 2 phones here. I send a message. I show it. You can control it, etc. And they go, "Wow, I've never seen that before." So I'm encouraged by individuals who say, "Kevin, I'd like to license your technology because I am concerned about my privacy." So that is very encouraging to me. And I'm a small group. There's only 3 or 4 developers right now working on it, but I would really like to get some funding from somebody. So the call is out. If you want to support human digital liberty and having the ability to control your data, contact me. I'm easy to find. CYVA.com, CYVA.com. All right. Or Human Digital Liberty, that's another domain that I own. But people can just contact me. Do you guys put I guess in the description is...
Yeah, we'll put your links in the description.
And then, it goes on, there's the podcast on Apple,
Right.
There's YouTube and LinkedIn.
Right.
So that's why we always like to ask people is like, how could you did us a favor by coming on the show. We want to do you a favor by having your name in front of the right people.
Right.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Well, I had a very small group of angel investors a few years ago, but I need more, to help out here. Guys, you've been really wonderful and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, this was fun. Really fun. Hey, look, one last question. What are we going to, Star Trek or Skynet?
Wow. If you listen to I watch a couple of gentlemen on a regular basis, and they're painting a very dark future. We got the former CEO of Google doing what he's doing right now, and I applaud him. I say, beat the drum, sound the alarms, get it up there, but we're not spending enough money on safety. And there are other speakers out there who are, I don't know if I want to say this, but what is this compulsion to amass as much wealth as you possibly can? I mean, I'm just, is that a sickness? You know, the Bible says a love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Now, we see that. We see that, okay? And I'm just hoping and praying we get Star Trek Captain Kirk, you know, and we're going out to space here to do what's right, etc., to do what's good. And I applaud us for going to Mars and such like that. But I do want these billionaires to pay more attention to the security and safety and liberty. Probably liberty is the key word for me of Americans and citizens across the planet. I would love to free billions of Chinese from their government. And I'm wondering, how do you do that? So how do you fight irregular cyber warfare? That's a whole other topic, guys.
That is. I'd like to have that.
Let's.
I was thinking about that too. Like if Iran was just freed from the internet and all the Islamic extremists, what they could produce. But that's a whole different subject.
Yeah, well, we got to do and say, how do you free the people that are slaves?
Yes.
And are being mistreated, who are being persecuted every day. Okay. Those are the people I want to help right now. All right, guys. Any other?
Nope.
No, that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Hey, do I get a free Felipe's pizza next Friday?
You got it. Friday and Thursday. We just got to find your correct address. We're going to deliver it to your address in Del Mar.
No, but you guys are in San Diego, right?
Yeah, we're in Mission Valley right here.
All right, well, let's get together in person. Have a pizza.
Yeah, I'd like that.
All right, let's do that.
You got it.
All right, thank you, John.